everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the second half of May and the full moon that we have in Sagittarius coming up on the 29th. Just to say, I do have a separate video about some of the main themes we can expect with Uranus moving into Taurus, which it did on the 15th of May. But I just want to, at the start of this video, just recap on a few of those and maybe enlarge on some areas. And I'm sure I'm going to be doing this all the way through all those years up until 2026, when Uranus eventually leaves Taurus and moves into Gemini. One of the main things that I've been thinking about recently is Taurus is about values, our values. It's also about things of value. So traditionally it rules banking, money, wealth, that sort of thing. And if we look back in history, and I detail this in my newsletters, my monthly newsletters, we can see last time Uranus entered Taurus, there was a revolution in that area. Equally, we should expect the same again. And as I mentioned in the other video, we probably should expect a digitization of everything that's financial and quite a revolution in this whole financial and banking area. But Taurus is also about our personal values, what we value. And I'd really like you to ask yourself that question of, what do you value? What makes you happy? What gives you pleasure? What gives you joy? What makes your heart sing? Where do you really feel alive when you're doing some particular thing in your life? And can you do more of those things to have more or greater sense of value in your life? Because I think the shift, one of the dimensions of the shift we'll see over the next 7-8 years is going to be the shift from placing value on permanent things that we might have in the past, like our homes or our cars, etc., and putting a focus more on our inner states, our inner sense of value. We will become much more aware of frequency and vibration and what that means for us, because essentially we all, if you think of it like an inner radio dial, we have the power, and this is really what we've got to master, I think, particularly over the next few years. We have the power to simply turn that radio dial to a higher frequency, and we then ripple out, we then broadcast that higher frequency. And because the universe is a mirror, we simply get a match to that frequency in our reality, i.e. the outer world changes for us, our experience changes. And I think that whole understanding, and I write a lot about it in my recent book, How to Co-Create Using the Secret Language of the Universe, that process, that understanding will become much more widespread, because Uranus is very connected to vibration and frequency. If we look back to the last time Uranus entered Taurus in 1934, very interesting, some of you may have heard of a man called Dr. Raymond Rife, R-I-F-E. He understood that every illness has a frequency, and he actually constructed something called a Rife machine, which is a frequency machine. They still exist now. You can still find them and find practitioners who use them. In 1934, apparently Dr. Rife was curing cancer patients with this machine. So it was an understanding of frequency and vibration, Taurus connected to the body. There's going to be another huge leap in that understanding, not only with regard to health, but also with regard to happiness. There may be technological devices that help us achieve a state of bliss, altered states, help us shift our frequency. But this connection between frequency of the inner and frequency of your outer reality is going to be a quantum leap, I think, for most people over the next few years. So that's one of the themes. We're going to move also from this focus on perhaps permanence to flexibility with things that we have given long established value to. Another area that I think will be very big will be the role of youth in coming up with some genius inventions, Uranus, connected with the earth and the environment. We've already had a lot of young people inventing incredible devices to clean up plastic pollution in our seas. But just a couple of days ago, I was watching a TED lecture from this schoolboy. He was literally a schoolboy, and he's invented a device which takes styrofoam packaging, which has a 500-year lifespan. It doesn't decompose, and he has invented a process by where he can turn that into activated charcoal to purify air and water. And as he says, that solves two problems at once. So, we're going to get young people like him, he's still at school, to come up with genius inventions, Uranus connected with the Earth, and solve a lot of our environmental problems. Uranus is also, important to say, between now and April 2020, just moving in a sort of pretty much a 6-degree band between 0 and 6 degrees of Taurus. That's a very narrow band. So if you have any planets between 0 and 6 of the fixed signs, those are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, you're going to be feeling this personally, because Uranus tends to rattle and shake up whatever the old status quo has been. And I'm thinking, for instance, people born in 1991 have Saturn in the early degrees of Aquarius. They're going to be receiving a square from transiting Uranus. So that is going to shake up some element of their lives. Now, if you don't know where early Taurus falls in your chart, please download a free birth chart from my website, pamgregory.com, and then you can go to this link above. You can buy a 2-part tutorial video series which will explain exactly for you how to locate areas of your chart and what new moons, full moons, or early Taurus in this case, means for you in your life. And that can give you so much more meaning than I can obviously cover individually in these general forecasts. So, and you can use those videos forever. So wherever early Taurus is falling in your chart, this is going to be an area of shake-up. It's going to shake up stagnation, deadness, routine, anything also which has become unsustainable for you. This is going to shake it up. I think there is also, together with what I was really just saying about vibration, there's going to be quite a jump in consciousness with this too, because Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. Mercury is the planet of the mind. Uranus is the planet of the superconscious. And with each movement of Uranus into another sign, there is a shift in consciousness. And consciousness will particularly accelerate when Uranus moves into Taurus fully in March 2019. That's when we'll really feel the acceleration, I think. And by the time we get to 2026 and Uranus is moving into Gemini, I believe many of us will be communicating telepathically. That's one of the likely themes then. And just to back up a little, Uranus has already entered Taurus, but between November this year and March next year, it will be backtracking into the late degree of Aries, and then from March 2019 onwards, it will be fully in Taurus. Another area I think will be very important to watch is anti-aging. Now, with Saturn in Capricorn, that just on its own would talk about anti-aging as a theme, because Saturn is to do with time, Lord of time, chronology, and Saturn in Capricorn classically is likely to deliver some interest and development in anti-aging. Uranus, as I've just said, is about youth. So youth, and Taurus is the body. So it won't just be that we are turning back the clock on our faces, as it were. We will be potentially turning back the clock on our bodies. Taurus is much more to do with the body and our physiologies. So we may be able to slow aging or even reverse aging. Now, again, there could be some technological devices, Uranus, to enable us to do that. But I think that's going to be one of the big themes as well. Another area I would just like to enlarge on is, in the other video I talked about Uranus moving into Taurus. Uranus technology, Taurus is agriculture, our food resources. There is likely, as one trend, to be greater food engineering happening with this movement of Uranus through Taurus, Equally, I think there is going to be a very strong pushback of people who want to move off-grid, people who want to move to eco-farms, people involved in permaculture, people involved in communities, Uranus, growing organic vegetables. I think that's going to be a really strong theme, because although Uranus is about a revolutionary jump, it's also about community. Taurus is the sign which is most associated with going back to the land, going back to the simple, basic rhythms of nature. And that surge towards organic farming, literally working the land as they did in the old days, without pesticides, chemicals, etc., I think will be a very, very strong movement. And there's almost another echo here of the 1960s, when people were living in communes and growing their own food as well. And by the way, the trend of growing your own food, I think, is a great idea, because we are going to be seeing a lot of extreme climate movements with Uranus in Taurus for sure. So if you have a small patch of garden to grow some food, or even within your home, if you can grow herbs and salad leaves, another great thing to do is to get a sprouter, which I have at home, and you can take alfalfa seeds, broccoli seeds, you can take organic chickpeas, lentils, whatever, and soak them overnight and then sprout them in the sprouter, and they are highly, highly, highly nutritious, much more so than just boiling them. So that's another thing you can do to provide your own nutrition organically. So that whole movement, I think, is going to be very important as well. Now, I just mentioned that Uranus won't move fully back into Taurus until March 2019. It's sort of between November and March, it's back into Aries. Equally, Chiron, which has just moved into Aries, is also backtracking a little bit to the end of Pisces. So with these two slow-moving planets kind of hovering between the previous signs, Pisces, Aries for Chiron, and Aries, Taurus for Uranus, it's almost as if we're straddling the old paradigm and the new paradigm, which will then, as I say, fully accelerate once we get into March of next year. So many interesting trends to watch. And if you want more about those trends, as I say, please do check out the other video. Now, on the 25th of the month of May, we have an exact trine between Jupiter and Neptune. This repeats again in mid-August, and then it moves on. And this is really beautiful. Both of these planets are rulers of Pisces, essentially. Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. Jupiter is the ancient ruler. And Pisces is one of the most peace-loving signs. It's one of the most spiritual signs, the most ethereal sign. So when we get this trine between Jupiter and Neptune, it really is quite mystical. It helps to connect us to our source, to our inner life. It helps us to dream big. It helps us to have bigger visions for ourselves and for others. So it's quite fine in energy, and it's really quite exquisite. But it's very much about turning inwards and connecting to source. Then on the 29th of the month, we have our full moon at 8 degrees 10 minutes of Sagittarius. This happens at 7:19 a.m. Pacific and 3:19 p.m. UK time. So a full moon is a culmination. It's about closure. It's about things coming to a head. It can shine a light in whichever house it falls in your chart. So again, if you don't know that, download a free birth chart from my website and get the videos. It can be the fruits of your labour as well. It's really sort of coming to closure. That's always the feeling with a full moon. And Sagittarius is a wonderful energy because it's a surging forwards energy. It's about courage. It's about wisdom. It's about higher consciousness. It's about adventure. It's about striking out as an explorer in terms of travel, or explorer of the mind. So it has this wonderful forward-moving energy. So see where it falls in your chart. See where you're going to get that surge of energy coming through. It also, the shadow side, I should say, is about opinionation. And this is where we can get, oddly, for a mutable sign, we can get very fixed in our views or very dogmatic in our views. And so be aware personally not to do that. Be aware to keep your flexibility, to pull back and hear the other person's point of view. So it can be a little bit, as I say, judgmental and dogmatic. So pull back on that. But generally, this is a very positive full moon, because it also has two grand trines connected to it at the time of the full moon. Now, a grand trine is an equilateral triangle. So I've just mentioned we have a trine between Jupiter and Neptune. Venus joins to form an equilateral triangle at this full moon. So Venus is in Cancer, Jupiter's in Scorpio, Neptune's in Pisces. And this is very inspirational. It's highly creative. It has this mystical side to it, as I mentioned. But to be in nature, to be inspired by the beauty and the colour of nature is a wonderful thing to do at this full moon. Also, we have a grand trine in fire. We have the full moon at 8 of Sagittarius. We have Chiron just moved into 1 degree of Aries. And we have the North Node at 7 degrees of Leo. So that forms a fire equilateral triangle. And this is more to do, I mean, a full moon is always connected with letting go what no longer serves you. But this equilateral triangle of fire emphasizes that. I mean, the moon is often connected to the past. Chiron is about where we're wounded, where we have been wounded in the past. And the North Node is about our future collective destiny. So a strong feeling here of needing to let go of the past, of our past wounds, in order that we can more fully step in to that collective destiny coming up for us. And tapping, using EFT tapping, can be a great way to release the energy. If you don't know what that is, you can find free demos online and learn it in 5 minutes and do it at home for yourself. It's a great tool to have in your toolkit. As well as those two grand trines in water and in fire, we also have the full moon in conjunction with a fixed star called Antares. Now, Antares echoes this theme of courage, of fearlessness, of taking radical action. So it has this, again, surging forward, fiery energy. But it tends to be a little bit impulsive. It encourages you to act quickly. And if anyone acts quickly and it hasn't been thoroughly thought through, it can be too reckless. And then things can not work so well. And what emphasises that theme is this strong feeling perhaps of our leaders being strong in their fiery opinions. We also have a Mars-Uranus square still operational here. Mars in early Aquarius, square to Uranus in early Taurus. And any Mars-Uranus aspect, particularly a square, can be very impulsive, impatient, a little bit reckless, a little bit, act before we think, and quite associated again with eruptive behaviour or eruptions in the earth. And here we have a full moon in mutable fire. So we may see fiery opinions coming to a head. We may see fiery things in the earth. I'm thinking volcanoes, etc., possibly coming to a head at this time. So just be very aware of all of that too in your personal life. However, there's a wonderful Sabian symbol for this full moon, which is deep within the depths of the earth, new elements are being formed. And that feels so right for Uranus moving into Taurus, because there are going to be big earth changes, but equally, I think in some way that is going to reflect the changes in our consciousness as well as we move forwards. So we have a lot to think about through this second half of May. I'm going to be talking a lot more about that Mars-Uranus square through the summer. It's going to be really quite dominant, and I'm going to be talking about it certainly in the next couple of videos. If you'd like more detail, please do subscribe to my newsletter, which you can subscribe to on any page of my website, pamgregory.com. It's extending to over 6,000 words now every month, quoting a lot of global examples of what's unfolding, so we can see astrology unfolding with its symbolism all of the time. It's great proof of the pudding. It's a great way to learn as well. If you'd like more information about my books, my tutorial videos, or anything I've been talking about here today, just check out the website pamgregory.com, and I hope you have a wonderful full moon in Sagittarius on the 29th. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.